Sorry?
And did you say two tomorrow morning also?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I'll catch
And
that on the recording.
okay, no problem. What do you call it? In Mizrahi tonight as well, we did almost 2 blocks. So let's begin. We are Motzei Shabbos Parshas Lech Lecha. We're up to Daf Ayin Vav, the Mishnah. We're up to the Mishnah. Now, these are technical rules. When a Yisrael wants to get married, there aren't too many problems other than make sure it's not a mamzeres, not from the nation of the Sinim Givonim, and not a goy. But the problems begin when you're a kohen, because when you're kohen, you also have to make sure that this woman is not a halala. A halala is that if her parents were a kohen and the kohen lived with someone that he shouldn't, like a divorcee, or she's not a zayna. Zayna is if she ever lived with somebody even once who she couldn't marry. That's a zayna, with a goy or a mamzer, and or a divorcee. So kohen has to be much more careful, much more thorough. So how far back do you have to check? So we learned the Mishnah here. Now this Mishnah has like 3 or 4 opinions how to understand the Mishnah. We will learn the Mishnah the way Rashi learns. Now Rashi, the Mishnah is talking about a kohen. We're talking about a kohen. And Hanais Isha Kohenis. So kohen wants to marry a woman who's a kohenis as well. And kohenim generally were very careful to make sure that they had a good lineage. So tzarich livdek achareh. If he wants to marry her, he has to check her out. Make sure what? According to Rashi, it's to make sure that there's no mamzeres in her family. Toises and others say no. We're not talking about a mamzeres. What's it in a kohen or Yisrael? We make sure there's no halalim mixed into that family. And so how far do you go back? Only look at the maternal side, and there's 4 different lines that we go back, and each one we go back 2 generations, and they are as follows. So 4 lines, 2 generations makes up 8. Ima, we check out her mother, the Ima, and her baba, her mother's mother. That's 1 line. The other line is her mother's father. So her mother's father's mother and her mother. The aim avi ima the ima. You're not talking about 4 generations. So that's really 2 lines and 2 of each. The aim of the ima and the mother of her father and her mother, her father's mother and her mother. So we're only checking going down the line of the women. We'll soon see more why. And the last one is the aim avi, her father's father, her Zayda's mother and her mother. What about Levi of Yisraelis? Now here's a big argument, the Girsa. Rashi's Girsa is that the woman was from the Shevet Levi, Shevet so they're not so meticulous in the lineage. We need to go back a few more another generation. So Mesifin Alein Oidachas, we go back 1 more generation. Another we said before. Let's say we check out her mother's mother and her mother. We go now 1 more generation and then mother as well. So suddenly, instead of 4 lines by 2, we go 4 lines by 3. So we're going back 3 generations for each particular one. The Ran and others are Geris. Levi Yisrael. If the man was a Levi Yisrael and he's checking the woman out, he has to look for mamzeris. And therefore, for mamzeris, we have to add another line, another generation to make sure. And now, why the kohen doesn't have to check for mamzer? So the Ran learns the kohen also has to check for mamzer. But the Mishnah in the beginning was focusing on halalim. Anyway, the Mishnah continues. However, you're starting to check, and then you realize that one of the ancestors worked in the Beis Hamikdash. Then, if one of the ancestors worked in the Beis Hamikdash, you no longer have to check that line, because in the Beis Hamikdash they would do their own investigations to make sure that every kohen who served there was 100% proper. If there was a Levi and the Levi was on the platform, either playing instruments or singing, you no longer have to check them out either, because definitely they were already checked out. The Leimin has Sanhedrin, nor the case of if there's a member of the Sanhedrin, the large one, which is either 70 or even the 23, they definitely checked them out already. That line you don't have to check any further. But if they're the lesser, maybe you would. But then he continues. If you're any of the ancestors, any of those lines, that they were public officers, and as Rashi said, maybe he was a judge in a tribunal of 3 judges. Again, we can assume that they were checked out. So that particular line, you no longer have to investigate. The Gabbai Tzedakah, if this person was a Gabbai Tzedakah, you no longer have to check them out. as we'll see in the Gemara, because he gets into a lot of fights. People don't. It's unpleasant because he can force people, coerce them to give them tzedakah. And if he had any issues in his family lineage about mamzer, it would have come out already, because people, would retaliate and so on and besmirch his name. Masin lekuna all of these they can marry kohen. You don't have to look any further. Rabbi Yosi says, the city called the Yeshana, right next to Tzipori, if they were signing as a witness, they would not, in that city, they don't tolerate any people signing as witnesses unless they do a proper investigation that the lineage is pure. So if they sign documents in that city, definitely they have a pure lineage. Others say it means that if they had a register, all the potential judges, if they ever needed it, if he made it onto the register, that line, you don't have to check any further. Even somebody was a member of the army of the king, that they also were checked out, as we'll soon see what we're talking about there. So first the Gemara says, why are all these lines only the maternal side? Why aren't we looking at the paternal side? Why always the mother, the baba, the grandmother, grandma's mother? Why not the paternal side? The Gemara says an interesting thing about the difference in the nature of men and women when they argue. People can get very nasty and they try to insult each other. So what is the worst insult that a woman would give another woman? And what is the worst insult that a man would give another man? And it goes as follows. Women, when they fight with each other, quarrel, they would accuse each other, oh, you committed adultery with that particular man. That's the most nastiest thing that they would say. But they would never talk about the lineage. If there's something wrong with the lineage, it would never come up in their arguments. However, Gavri men, when they become nasty, what they do is they call each other a mamzer and they say, oh, your uncle was a mamzer and so on and so forth. And therefore, if we don't know any rumors about this particular family, then obviously there's nothing wrong, because everybody gets into fight one time or another in their lives. Something would have come up. They argue about they allege that this person's lineage is not is faulty and so on. And if there's any mamzerim in that family, it would have come up already. Says the Gemara, why is it that the man investigates the woman's side of the family? Why don't you find the mission that the woman should investigate the man's side of the family? The Gemara says, this supports Rav that Bas Kohen is allowed to marry someone who's a cholol, and it's only a male Kohen who cannot marry. Now, this is the reason why most Rishonim have a problem with Rashi's pshat, that when we investigate the woman, we're looking in to see whether there's mamzerim, because what there was have to do with women are not obliged to marry somebody pure, but mamzerim makes no difference, male or female. You're not allowed to marry a male or a female. And therefore, they learned that we're looking for halalim. And because of halalim, for women, it doesn't really matter. But when we look for mamzerim, then even the woman has to check out the man, just like the man has to check out the women. As we'll see in a minute what our Mishnah is talking about. Says the Gemara further. The Gemara is going to say soon that our Mishnah is talking about that somebody raised a rumor. There was a rumor abounding that this particular family has something wrong with it, a blemish, either a mamzer or a chol or something like that. Otherwise, we don't go out there and checking people out. Says the Gemara. Rabbi says, okay, there are 4 different lines that we investigate, change Temesi, but the total comes out to 12. In other words, 3 generations, not like our Mishnah 2. And Mastita, we look at another brayse, Daladimois, we go through the 4 different lines, checking out maternals, relatives, Shem Sheish Essay, but we go 4 generations, a total of 16. Now, how does it reconcile that with our Mishnah? So, it makes sense, Rabbi Mukillah, he learns he learns that this brayse is talking about not a kohen, talking about or searching the family of Bas Kohen. We're searching the family of a Levi Yisrael. We're not so meticulous, and therefore we have to go back 1 more generation to investigate. Our Mishnah says clearly, a Levi Yisrael, you go 1 more generation. So it's 4 lines by 3. Okay, that's 12. So name Elamasnita, but the brayse that says you go back 4 generations, total of 16. Name a pligi. Obviously, he's arguing with our Mishnah. No. When the Mishnah says that if it's a Levi Yisrael, you add 1 more, you assume 1 more means 1 more generation. We say 1 more the brayse says 1 more means 1 more set, because when we check out, let's say the mother of the father, we check out the mother of the father and her mother. Even though it's 2 people, it's 1 set. So therefore, when this Brisa says, when our Mishnah says that if it's a Leviya Yisrael, you go one more Oid Achas, it means one more set, two more generations, and that's how the Brisa understood our Mishnah. So in total, we go back 4 generations. So if you think people are very meticulous when they go through Shidduchim, they go look at the grandparents. Here we go, the grandparents. We're going back 4 generations. Study word further. These are the words of Rameir. Rav said these are the Rameir. That the Chachamim say that all families are treated as if they are kosher. Every Jew has a cheskes kasher. We assume that they're untainted unless we know otherwise. Says the Gemara, how can that be? The same Rav said, Eini v'amar Rav chama b'agud amar Rav. Someone else said the name of Rav. Mishnah Seinu, our Mishnah is saying that we have to investigate them is only kishakoyda olavidu, when somebody raised a rumor. Rashi says a rumor that was promulgated by 2 people. If there were not 2 people who said we heard this and this and this, we wouldn't even take it seriously. It has to be 2 people. The Rambam goes a step further. The 2 Eidim have to say we know for a fact that there's a chol in this family. Not that we heard a rumor, but we know for a fact. Rumors mean nothing. Anyway, so our problem is as follows. The second Rav seems to say that our Mishnah is only talking about when somebody raised an issue. Otherwise, everyone holds his kosher. And you're telling me that our Mishnah follows Rameir that says that you always have to check them out. And not the Rabbanan who said that you don't think the Rabbanan would hold that if there was a rumor around about this family, that the Rabbanan wouldn't agree you should do your investigations? Of course they would agree. So why do you tell me that? How can one Rab say our Mishnah follows Rameir, and the other Rab says that our Mishnah follows seems everybody because somebody raised some kind of questions about the family? So the Gemara, the Masnah is 2 different students in the name of Rab, and they're not agreeing with each other. Ikadam is another version. That in fact what Rav said was, these are the words of Rameir. Chachamim say, Kol mishpachas b'cheskes she'ein, all families are considered kosher. All families are kosher. Right? Fair enough. But the same as I said before. But then the Rav said further, within the Chachamim itself, even the Chacham will agree that if there was an ear, there was a rumor, then you have to investigate the family. Being machlek is in halacha, the Tur brings in the name of the Rameh in the beginning of Ibn Ezra, he says that when we say that the halacha is Kol Yisrael, that or Kol Mishpachas b'cheskes she'ein, and all kosher is only if you know the family. You daven with them in shul, you see them on Shabbos, you see them around. But if it's a new family moved into town, you have no idea who they are, then you have to, and there's a shidduch taking place, you have to investigate the family. Who are they? That's the opinion of the Rameh. The opinion of others is it makes no difference whether you know or you don't, because we don't make that distinction in the Gemara. Everybody has a cheskes kashrus, unless we have questions that come up, which is how the B'Shas Paskins. Okay, Gemara continues. If somebody in the lineage there worked in the Beis Hamikdash, you no longer have to check them out that particular line. My time of why? If they wouldn't have investigated, they never would have allowed him to work in the Beis Hamikdash. Nor we understand the platform. My time is the same thing. They sat there in the Lichos Hagazis. It was a tribunal, and their job was to investigate every single person serving in the Beis Hamikdash. Sanhedrin nor for the Sanhedrin, why not? My time, but what's about the Sanhedrin? Would you need somebody of perfect lineage to be a member of the Sanhedrin? So the Gemara says, yes. The Ton Rabbi Yosef said, Kishem shebez din menukin b'tzedek, just like the bezin has to be just, kach menukin mikomum, they should be flawless, no blemishes. What pasuk does it base that on? It says in the pasuk that Shlomo says, Kulach yafer ayasi, you're also nice, my friend, umum ein bach, and you have no blemishes. Says the Gemara, how do you know it means lineage? Ema mum mamet. How do you know it means the pedigree? Maybe it means they have no blemishes, physical. It says in Pasuk, Moshe Rabbeinu, when he said to Hashem, I don't have the ability to give the people meat that they're pestering me for. And Hashem said, don't worry, get the Sanhedrin together, bring this Canaan together, and about Salti Meru, I'll give them from your spirit on them. And it says there, Visyatzvu sham imach, and let them stand next to you. So the word imach is a strange word, and we say imach b'daimilach, they should be just like you, flawless. Moshe Rabbeinu came from Amram, it came from Levi, it was pure lineage. Same thing, all the Sanhedrin should be the same. Says the Gemara, perhaps with maybe that was an exception because they were standing, Hashem was about to transfer the Kedusha from Moshe to these people. So maybe that's why we needed people with pure lineage. Like we had before, Shifta Kor Eidos Yisrael, Hashem does not rest His Shekhinah only on people that are pure lineage. Maybe that's the reason. So the pasuk Yisro suggested to Moshe Rabbeinu that he should form all of these small tribunals, and he said all these courts. By doing that, they'll make your life much lighter, they'll lessen your burden. They will carry with you, similar to you. Anybody who is, the parents were involved in public duties. It seems to me that anyone with a public office should have a pure lineage. Let me ask a question, Raminu. We learned Hakok Shadim Lodon, everybody's qualified to be a judge. Everybody's qualified to be a judge. When it comes to commercial disputes. But the Ein Hakok Shadim Lodon in the first. Now when it comes to capital punishment. Now, Vavima, we try to understand. We're in Hakok, everybody. Who are we trying to include? Let's see, Mamza. Even a Mamza can be a judge. You just said any public officer has to be someone with a pure lineage, and says clearly that the Mamas can be a Mamza. You're right. Even a Mamza can be, but not in Yerushalayim. In Yerushalayim, it has to be pure. When it says Kol Misha Huz Gavais, it's talking about if they were serving in Yerushalayim, because Yerushalayim, the custom was they have to be pure. It says also in the Brises of Levi, Yerushalayim, in Yerushalayim, it has to be pure. The Gabetz in my time, why? Even the Mansi Bahadi Inchi, you constantly come into arguments with people. You can force people to give tzedakah, even on Friday. Now, even though that's a big issue, because as Taisus and Babas, the Chesed Beis, the Kafia, there's a whole issue there that the Gemara Chulin says that any mitzvah where the Torah records the reward, the Bezdin has no right to coerce them, because the fact that the Torah promised them a reward, if you don't do it, you'll forfeit your reward. You don't have to do anything more than that. And tzedakah is one of them. So the question is, how can you force for tzedakah? It says that tzedakah, the Abish will bless you account of that. So we so Taisa there has a question. They all talk about it. He gets four answers. One answer is because by tzedakah there's also a lav. Like amitz, you shouldn't close your fists. And because on account of the lav, we have a right to force you. And the Gemara says that if there's a mitzvah with a reward, you cannot force. That's only if it's a positive mitzvah. This has a positive and negative side to it as well. Now the question is as follows. Not the question. Gemara now explains. If there was any faults in the family, in the pedigree of this Gabbai Tzedakah, it surely would have come out. He has so many enemies. Somebody would have been. They definitely would have been looking to find, because they all have grudges against him. Would have found something. East Lake Kola. Gemara now tells a story. Ushpezichne de Rav Adabarava, the host of Adabarava, was a convert. Now, if you take this literally, it sounds from the Gemara. He was a convert. He was having a dispute with Abibi. One of them said, I want to run the affairs of the city. I want to run the affairs of the city. Also, they went before Rabbi Yosef. He said, Tanina, we learned, you should place upon you a king, but it's repetitive. We learned from there that just like the qualifications to be a king is has to be a member of your people, so too, any position of authority has to be a member of your people, but not a ger. Should only be amongst your brothers and not a ger. So the host was told that you're a ger, so therefore a bibi runs the affairs of the city. Who was his guest, stood up to defend him as an advocate. He said, but this guy's mother was a yid. So why should he lose out? He said, his mother's a yid, that's different. Then he's considered kerev v'chicha. My conclusion, therefore, Rabbi Yosef says as follows. Rabbi the Rabbi was a great man. He should take care of all the spiritual matters of this town. Like, for example, the Gabbai Tzedakah distribution and so on. Another guy should check out all the normal things that a city requires. Now, it's very odd. You called him a ger, and you said his mother was Jewish. So what kind of ger is he? He's Jewish. There's an opinion, Rashi in Yevamas, Taisus, Pcheres, and other places, Yevamas also. We learned that there are two opinions. If a guy lives with a Jewish woman and has a child, one opinion is the child is a mamzer. And the other opinion is the child is kosher. We take it, that's how we halach is today, that the child kosher means a Jewish kid. even though the father, regardless of the father is a goy. However, Rashi and Tosfos learn the child kosher means that the child is a goy, and therefore it's kosher because it's not a mamzer, so he can convert and live like a normal Jew. It's a big chiddush to say that. So they had a different gears in the Gemara, but you can say that the basis for that opinion is right here in the Gemara. They called this guy a ger, and his mother was Jewish. According to the way we hold today, he's a full-fledged Jew. What's it to talk about? It's because if you learn like Rashi and Tosfos, that he was a ger. His mother was Jewish, so he had to convert. But a normal convert, when they convert, they have no connection to the family. Technically, a convert can marry his sister, can marry his mother. But this case, if your mother was Jewish, then and the father was a goy, and the child converts, the child is a child of this mother. So that's their basis. That's why we call him a ger, the child of his mother. Says the Gemara. In fact, according to us, we need to understand why in the world do they call him a ger when he was actually full-fledged Jew. We have to say, according to us, he was the son of a ger, and we call him a ger. But the problem is, it says in the Torah, you're not allowed to embarrass a ger. You're not allowed to call him a ger. And here we're calling the son of a ger again. If you're going to be nice to the rabbis, you're going to host them, make sure you get somebody really smart. Make sure that you host someone like Rav Ada bar Rava equal to him, because he knows how to defend you in times of trouble. Rab Zeda used to use a ger that his mother was eating, no problem. Marav in Israel, they said a ger, not a mother's ger, it's an ordinary ger. They wouldn't allow him even to be in charge of the scales and the weights, because that's a position of authority. And in the day, they would not allow the person to decide the channels of water, the irrigation, where it's going, because it's a position of authority. And same Tasim Alecha, Kol Mesim Mesim should be Layia Ela. I'll just quickly tell you, there's a big controversy about 70 years ago, where Ramosha Feinstein came out and said that women cannot be mashgichim for a kosher organization because kol mesim mesim you have to be el mekera v'chicha, has to be for your brothers, and therefore can't be a woman. And a mashgiach is very powerful because she can shut a restaurant down. She can say it's trading her around. So he came out with this big chiddush, and many kashrus organizations will not use women today. Those who disagreed with him, one of the reasons of disagreement is they argue that the mashgiach does not have the position of authority. It's the rabbi who makes the decision whether to shut, a certain restaurant down or something. The mashgiach is merely the eyes and ears of the rabbi, reports to the rabbi what he saw, and it's the rabbi who makes a decision. So therefore they say that's not all of these positions in the Gemara, they themselves unilaterally make the decisions where the water should go and so on. That's a position of authority. And that's where maybe women shouldn't be involved. And that's part of the discussion, whether a woman could be a president of a shul and all that comes under the same discussion as well, about positions of authority. So if you ever hear about different shuls having arguments about women becoming a president, that's the basis of the argument. The positions of authority, and a board can make decisions. On the other hand, on the board, you don't have a lone decision. You have to get a majority. Anyway, these are all issues that are discussed in halach. Okay, let's continue. My time, sorry, Rabbi Yossi says even somebody who signs these things, my time with daikim mechasim, because they were very careful who signed before they accepted the signature. The army of David HaMelech, because there they checked out every person before they joined the army. Where do you find a pasuk that they checked out the yichus of every person? They went out there and they looked at the yichus of every person who went to the war. The time of mind. Why would you care? Why would you care if the pedigree? As long as they're a yid, they're ready to fight a war. We want them. Very important. When we go to war against our enemies, we always need Hashem's help. And therefore, we want also that the prayers of our ancestors should intercede and intervene on our behalf. So therefore, we want to make sure that there's a pure pedigree. So what are we talking about? But I'll show you. I'll demonstrate. There was a soldier named Tzalek Armani, and he was the one who carried Yoyo's weapons. Armani. My love, the Osimam came from Ammon. So he was not pure lineage. Lloyd the Yosima, he lived there. Vayikol Uri Achita, Uri Achita, the one who was married to Bathsheba. My love, the Osim B'chei came from Ches again, not a pure lineage. Loi the Yosef B'chei, he lived there. Vayikol, what about this other person, which is Itai Hagiti? Itai Hagiti, he was definitely not Jewish. He lived in Gas. Itai Hagiti Bo Butler, that he was the only one who was able to cancel the Avodah Zarah because he was a Goya Jew. Once you own an idol, you cannot remove it, the idol part of it. But a Goy can. So clearly he was a Goy and he was there serving in the army. Furthermore, David Melech had 400 children. The Kulam B'nai Fast Torah, they were all the children of Fast Torah. Fast Torah is when you go to the army and you meet these, and you see these women, you have this tremendous urge you cannot resist to have relations with them, intimacy with them. So we have this in Parsha Yisei to the Yefas Torah, and you send it to your house for 30 days, and then you have to either marry her or send her away. Big machlek is Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam whether you're allowed to have bia there during the war or you don't have any bia at all. You just send her home and you wait. And David HaMelech, and you only permitted one per war. And David HaMelech had 400 such people. The kulam is taprim koimim megadlim b'lurizayu. They were shaving their heads, and they were allowing the blurries to grow. What's a blurries exactly? Machlek is Rambam and Rashi. According to the Rambam, means they left a lump of hair right in the middle of the head. According to Rashi, they left the hair in the back of the head. And this is like a sort of a Baizor or something. Well, Kulam and Chukas Agoyim, and I'll do that. The Kulam Yaishim Bekrein Shazam, they also had these gold chariots, by Mahalchim Barosha Gayasas, and they were leading the army. The Hein Hein Balei Graves Beis David, they were the mighty sword warriors of Beis David. So the Chayda, you just said you have to have pure lineage, you have to have Yichus. So he answered the Ozlil Biyuse Am. They did not actually enter the theater of war. They were just there leading the army, the vanguards, to intimidate the enemies. The enemies say, "Oh, all these goyim, they work for the Eden as well. They'll be very scared." That's all. Very interesting. The Rameh in Sanhedrin says that David, these were all David Melech's children, but you're only allowed 1 year fast Torah per war. Must be that David Melech fought 400 wars in his lifetime. Crazy. Rashi here is bothered by the same question. So Rashi says here in the first white line, Rashi says, the end of the line, David, the young men, the army, Rashi says they were not his kids. There were other Yidden, each one sent their son to fight in this war, but not that they were David HaMelech's kids, because Rashi is